All right, well, hello, Pride Pack family. Welcome back to another video. My name is Tia, and today I am joined by my amazing fiance, Patricio, and we hope you enjoy the video. All right, so today we have a very late video for you. We have been meaning to film this for a very long time, but I guess with the coronavirus thing happening and our entire city being on lockdown, we have plenty of time to talk about it now. So now you get this awesome video. So today's video, we are going to talk about buying a house at a very young age, or like what people would consider a young age.
For us, it's 22.
Yes. So we were both 22 when we went through the home buying process at the end of last year. So we are just going to sort of talk about like all of the pros and cons, if we face any challenges, and all of that good stuff. So stay tuned if you are interested. Okay, so first we'll kind of start off like, why did we even decide to start looking to buy a house? If you rent, you already know they raise your rent.
And they locked us in for, we had to do another 18 months, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And they raised our rent by about $200 just for us to stay in the exact same home with no upgrades. And it was just getting worse. And we thought, you know, why, screw it. Like, why not just buy a home?
Yeah.
It ends up being almost the same price, we thought.
Exactly. So it was like, might as well look into owning our own property instead of paying these rental companies. So we started like looking around everywhere, trying to see if we could find something nice that was in our price range. So I guess we should sort of talk about like, how do you even find your price range, right? So this is how you like find your price range. And like, I know this can be very like intimidating if you're young, you've never bought a house, or maybe your family members, they've never bought a house. So like, let's talk about how you find your price range.
So to find your price range, first you need to determine if you're going to be in a home by yourself or if it's going to be with a partner, perhaps a spouse, or maybe you're going to be purchasing with a family member. In our case, we're lucky that we've already been together since high school. And right out of high school, we moved in together into our rental places. So we were obviously looking together, and our budget really depended and still depends on both of us working. And that also factors in the fact that we don't have any kids, and neither of us are stay-at-home parents. So both of us need to be working to maintain our current lifestyle, and that really is going to play a big factor.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are other options. You know, some people are comfortable buying homes, say with friends or something like that. If you're really good friends and you're like able to make that commitment, I mean, you know, you do you type of thing. But yeah, you need to determine all of those things. And then once you know exactly who you're buying your house with, you need to start figuring out how much y'all can afford. So first, you can just go online and just look up like online mortgage calculator or something like that, and you'll find plenty of free calculators that you can like input all of your income and everything into, and it's gonna like spit out a like number or price range of about how much
it's just a general
house
price
you could afford.
And if it's just you by yourself, it's easy to throw that information in. But if you're doing with someone else, you're going to want to get your combined incomes together.
Yeah, and it's going to tell you like an overall home price, like say $250,000, whatever, and then it also will tell you like how much that is per month. And that should sort of like match up with how comfortable you and whoever you're buying with would be able to like make your payments. So once you kind of like have a general idea, like that off the back is gonna like let you know, like, okay, like for us,
it knocked it down a little bit.
Yeah. Like for us, we were like, well, first when we did the online calculator, we didn't even think that we would really be able to afford something like nice, like, but once we did it, it gave us a number, and we were like, oh yeah, like we should definitely go buy. The thing is, the online calculator actually overestimated how much we could afford, but still the numbers were looking good, so we're like, okay, let's do this. So you find a realtor, but you could use a family friend if you're in college or something, or you just got out of college and you have realtor friends. Like, go and be one of their first clients if you're really cool with them and they work hard. But you just need to find a realtor that makes you comfortable.
And we don't recommend being your own realtor. Even if you have a realtor license, we don't recommend you do that at all, especially for new construction. It's so specialized. You want to be careful with that.
Yeah, you could use the extra help for sure. But you just need somebody who's not going to be like timid or uncomfortable, like with your age, or like seems like they're making a joke or not taking you seriously. Just like find someone who's comfortable with you and who you feel like you have a good vibe with, I guess.
Shout out to our realtor for always being super chill.
Yeah, Catherine, you're awesome. So once you've got your realtor, you want to go get pre-approved with a lender or a loan officer. From like an official financial institution, a bank. There's plenty of different lenders out there.
Your realtor can help you find one if you haven't found a lender yet, or you can maybe go with your current bank. A lot of banks do lender programs.
Yeah.
Or if you have a home, like if you're purchasing a new home, sometimes they have preferred lenders you can go to.
Yeah, when you buy new construction like we did, they will have a preferred lender that you will have to use if you want to get some of their bonus perks. But you don't need to use that lender just to get pre-approved. Like, a pre-approval is them just running your stuff and giving you like how much you could afford with them. It doesn't lock you into having a loan with that lender or anything like that.
So when you go to get pre-approved, that's a hard credit check rather than, what is it, a pre-estimate or
pre-approved? No, pre-qualified.
Pre-qualified. When you do a pre-qualification, they're just generally telling you how much, but a pre-approval is I'm running a hard credit check and they're checking all of your background credit history, and that is going to take a hit to your credit. It's not a major hit to your credit, but it's enough to be noticeable, and within a certain amount of time, you can get as many credit checks as you want after that, something like 10 days. So if you're going to go get that hard credit check, you want to maybe have a couple of lenders lined up that you want to go see one after another to see what they tell you, since it won't affect your credit again.
Yeah, but how age could sort of like affect this is, what if you don't have credit yet?
Exactly.
You want to be like attractive to the loan officer. The bank doesn't really want to give people with no credit or bad credit a house, because you're a risk for them. So that's going to be like a limiting factor for you if you haven't already started building your credit. So I guess our first real tip for you is, if you really want to buy a house soon, start building your credit, which is very easy. Like, you're building your credit just by paying your bills, like having your name on bills and paying that, and then having a credit card. It's okay to have a credit card. Just
treat it like a debit card almost.
Yeah, just do your best to pay off your credit cards, and you will start building your credit. So that's gonna start limiting you if you haven't started doing that already.
So another thing that factors into your price range is if you have any debt on you already. That's not just credit. A lot of people in our age range would be in college, and a lot of that comes with student loan debt. And we were able to actually avoid that situation entirely through a lot of luck and hard work. Tia here, she went to UNLV, which is our local university.
Yeah, and when we first started the process, I was still at UNLV finishing up my last 2 months or something like that. So I did start while I was still in my last semester of college. But I went through debt-free, luckily, because I did have in-state tuition and scholarships and everything like that. So we didn't have student loan debt. So if that's crippling you, it's okay, but it might limit your ability to buy a house right now.
Or it might hurt your budget.
Yeah.
And we're also lucky because I actually dropped out of college within the first semester, actually, because I wanted to work full-time and I wanted to move out. So I went to work full-time while she went to school full-time, and we were able to move into an apartment right out of high school, essentially. And that's how we really started building our credit. Is we lived together from the age of 18 for 3-4 years before we actually got the home.
Yeah.
So we really built our credit during that time, and we really learned money, financing, and management.
Yeah, and not that like it's saying like you absolutely have to have done that and
Exactly.
stuff, but it's just you need to, or when you start applying for loans and stuff like that, the officers are going to take a look at your past living history, your bill pay history, making sure that you haven't been defaulting or making tons of late payments.
Or no breaking your leases.
Breaking leases, yeah. So they're going to go and look at all of those things. And it helped that we had a good, clean history from the past, like, 3 years before we purchased.
Exactly. And we understand we're very lucky in that situation, and not everyone can do that. One person working full-time while the other's doing school full-time isn't achievable for everybody. So it really will vary.
Okay, so now we kind of just wanted to talk about, like, were there any restrictions? Because I know you're probably thinking, like, they won't even let me rent a car without giving me a fee because I'm under 25. So how are they letting me buy a house, you know? We get you. We were right there too.
Yep.
We thought that that might limit us, but it actually did not limit us. So do not be afraid because you're young thinking that like you won't be able to buy a house completely under your name or something, or that like, oh, they're going to make me have like my parents. Like, no.
No, you can do it yourself.
You can do it yourself. It's okay.
That said, there were a couple of minor hurdles to get over, a few restrictions, I suppose.
Yeah. So one, kind of talking again about like prior history, they wanted, or like the loan officers and stuff, they want to see like 2 years of prior history, of work history. So they're taking a look at your tax returns, your W-2s, and they want to see full-time regular work. We were kind of running into a hurdle because, I mean, Patricio's income was fine because, like he said, he'd been working.
I worked at the same place for over 2 years at that point.
Place, yeah.
Yeah. But
I was different.
The main issue with Tia is that she did several jobs and she couldn't count both jobs or 2 jobs as income because she hadn't been working at the second job for 2 years. And that might vary state by state, but she'd been working one job consistently with a second job on the side, and they wouldn't count her second income whatsoever.
Yeah, they would only count the first income, which was part-time because I was still in college. And so they were only counting like they
took the lesser of the two and they said,
yeah,
that's your
and
income
like,
then.
oh, that's it. But you know, it just depends on the loan officer because we had, you know, one loan officer who was doing that and wasn't, even though I had gotten out of college or I started working full-time like my last month of college. And so some of the loan officers wouldn't count that, but I found a loan officer who would count, you know, the full-time work that I was doing. It's just like it just really depends on the officer whether they want
or whether
count.
they can find the legal loopholes they need, and it really just depends.
Yeah. But they are going to want that. They're going to want your tax returns. So if you haven't been doing your taxes and things like that, it's not going to, you're going to face hurdles for sure.
Or if you haven't made enough money to do taxes yet, that's going to be something that'll probably really throw them off. And if you don't have excellent credit, they might deny you outright for that.
Yeah. Oh, and also another big hurdle that I was facing was that some of my work that I had been doing was contracted work. I know a lot of you guys do like contracted work, just like myself, or did like self-employed stuff. Like you would think that they would encourage entrepreneurship, because I had like my own little side business for a while that was bringing in pretty decent income, but they didn't count that because you have to have like 2 or 3 years of that same self-employment work for them to like count it. So just be aware of that too.
Exactly. Also, something that we kept running into was every loan officer was asking us about gift money, and they seemed to assume that we were going to be getting some sort of gift money as down payments or help with the closing costs, and that just didn't happen. We're very fortunate to have gone through college without any debt, but we didn't have any family members who could contribute to buying the home itself.
Yeah, and I don't know if they do that with everyone where they constantly ask about gift monies, but my parents actually had just bought their first house like a year or a couple of years before we did, and they said that they weren't asking them that. So I think that was an age thing that they assumed since we were, trying to buy a house so young that maybe we were doing it because like maybe our families were like going
We're well
halvesies or
off.
something
Yeah.
like
Or
on
some
our
inheritance
house.
or something.
Yeah.
But no, we didn't have any gift money. Well, we had people who generously contributed, but we didn't have any official gift money that we could document.
Yeah, and I know you're hearing, oh yeah, they generously contributed. Like, no, so like for example, our down payment was gonna have to be like $30,000 or something like that, or 40,000. But we didn't have like a generous thing like that. It was like we had family members who were pitching in like $500 here, $500 there, that sort of thing. So it wasn't like, oh yeah, they generously gifted us like 20
Yeah.
grand type of thing. Like, no, it was like a few $100s here that added up to like maybe like $1,500 or something like that, or $2,000 of extra help. That was helpful to paying for our closing costs.
Yeah, so we didn't get any gift money, but the down payment is something that's really scary, and it was scary to us, and it's probably scary to a lot of people. We actually were able to luckily avoid that situation by the placement of our home and where we ended up buying it. As you know, we live in Las Vegas, but our home isn't in Las Vegas. It's in Clark County, like the rural area. So what happened is we filed for Home at Last, which is a program through the government, the local government that incentivizes buying more rurally outside of the city. So they paid off our down payment.
Yeah, so basically, we used a down payment assistant program. Pretty much, I'm sure all states have that. It paid for our entire like down payment. We just
The
had
minimum
to,
down payment.
yeah, the entire like minimum down payment, and we just had to pay the closing costs, which was about
$7,000?
$7,000.
Came up to about 7,000. We thought it would be less, but other fees brought it up to
fees.
more.
Yeah.
And you do have to pay. You have to pay into buying that assistance program too, so there is a fee associated with it.
Yeah.
And the main stipulation is we need to stay in our home for 3 years, and we can't sell or we can't move. So that also might be something to look into if you're doing assistance programs, is they might have stipulations on it.
Yeah, so think about that if you're young and you might be moving. Okay, so why you should really consider buying no matter your age, but especially if you're young, is because majorly like young is the time to go out and take risks. You're young, let's say everything falls apart, at least you're young and you've got time. I mean, obviously we could all like die at any time, but like you have time to go out and like
And rebuild.
pick yourself back up.
Yeah. And this obviously has a caveat. If you have kids, you have to be much more careful. If you have other obligations, you need to be much more careful, but you're still young, and a lot of what comes with home buying is you just got to jump into it. Like we saw so many hurdles that we didn't expect, and luckily we came out the other side, but if it fell flat, at least we know we tried. And if something were to go wrong now, we would have time in our lives to rebuild.
Yeah. At least you can learn about this process now,
Yeah.
so that if it's not for you right now, you already know kind of how the process works. So when it is right for you in a few years, like you're already more prepared for it. And then the other good thing that kind of goes along with it is that if you're purchasing when you're young, you're gonna pay off that house, before you retire. Basically, we.
At our rate, 30 years, that should be 52 years old, we would pay it off.
Yeah.
If we don't sell it or rent it out, that's when we paid off completely.
You have 7 years?
I think it's 7 years between when bankruptcies
Bankruptcy.
fall off.
If you ever had to file for that or something like that.
Exactly, which you never would want, but if it were to happen, you know that you have time.
You have time.
Yes, exactly.
another big reason why you should consider buying is kind of like we said, rent can be so expensive. It can be almost the same cost as your mortgage. And I know it sounds crazy because it's in like, why doesn't everybody buy? But I'm telling you, go and look, like, how much are you paying right now for your rent? And if you're like in a house or something similar that what you could buy, the price is probably similar. Sometimes it can even be less, depending
Really
on the
depends on
market.
the market and your down payment. So our mortgage costs are much higher because our down payment was way lower with our assistance. If we had a higher down payment, we would be paying a lot less, and it would actually be just about as much as renting now.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider.
Yeah. And then, like, my biggest thing is buying a house is such a big investment. Like, it's such a good investment for you because, one, you're investing in a property, in physical property. You've got a piece of land. You can use this house later on for, like, again, you could rent it out. Like, that is what we are hoping to be able to do in the future, is to rent out this house, and use that for additional income coming in. And tying money into a house can also just be really great for the future. You could sell the house later on once the market has like continued to grow and make a good profit off of that, to go and do something with that too, or use that for your retirement. Once you start paying off your house, you could use or take out like a second mortgage on it if you ever needed to have, get some of that cash back that you've already been putting in. There's just a lot of things that you could do with owning your own house.
As a segue from buying a new house or why you should get one now, would be buying a new construction home. Now is a really good time to do that as well. One of the main reasons to buy a new construction home when you're young is because it's going to come with a lot of the features that you kind of expect from a new home. And it's about the same price depending on where you live. For us, it was pretty much exactly the same cost as anywhere else. You get to choose your location better. We got to choose our exact lot that we wanted, which had our exact yard size, but it also comes with a lot of energy efficient updates to them, insulation and such. And the home is going to be more energy efficient. Some of them are starting to come with solar panels.
We're saving on our utility bills.
Exactly. Our utility bills are way cheaper than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of upgraded features. You can add as many cool features as you want, essentially, with some homes.
And it's not as expensive as you would think it is, especially depending on, the builder and, the exact floor plan and things that you decide. But for example, with our builder with KB Home, it allowed us to purchase more like a base house so that it could really stay in our budget and we could get something that was very affordable.
Exactly.
Instead of like, sometimes you think new build, like you're thinking like this grand, super decked out house, but it doesn't have to be that way. You could start with something base, just so you're like in there and you own a house, and then like upgrade yourself as you go along, so that you can like really work something into your own budget. Another big reason is just pets. We love our pets. I know a lot of us have pets. I feel like especially young people are really, especially when you're just getting out of your house or your university or something, a dorm where you couldn't really have a pet at the time. The first thing you want to do is go and have a pet. And renting with pets sucks. It really sucks. You're charging you like $500 deposits per pet on top of like $40 a month per pet.
And for dogs, there's breed restrictions too. So if you really want one of those wonderful dogs, like I've seen Huskies, Rottweilers, Pit Bulls, ones that people think are really scary, but they're actually really sweet animals. You can't have them in almost any apartment, but in a home, you can have as many as you want, essentially.
Yeah, like even if you could afford to pay like per pet, they're putting restrictions on how many pets you can have. You can only have 2 pets. It just sucks. And also, even if you do have pets, like we still had pets when we moved into our apartments and our first like rental house. But like there's just so many annoying things like, we were stuck with the type of yard that we had. We couldn't make, big adjustments to the house, like changing out the carpet to have wood floors to be more or better for our pets, or building in a dog door, something just like all of these things that make having a pet easier and, more livable for you.
So where should you buy your home location wise? A lot of that's going to depend on your school and your career. If you're still in college right now, that's definitely something to consider. If you're going to wait until you're graduating from college, that will open up a lot more opportunities. But if you want to buy while you're still in college, you're going to need to think about buying in your college town or somewhere close so you can commute to it.
And then you want to figure out, like, where do you want to live within that city? Like, are you a city social nightlife type of person? If so, maybe you want to live in a popular existing area, which can have a lot of benefits for you personally, because you've got your shopping and your food, entertainment right there. And maybe if you are thinking about the future, like, that's a good investment because people like to buy in the inner city, or maybe that's the hot spot that people want to buy, or rent, when people want to rent, or say you're trying to Airbnb, maybe that's, the hot spot.
Just keep in mind that the price is going to be much higher for these type of homes if it really is surrounded by a lot of entertainment and food and such.
Yeah. Or maybe you go like us and you aim for an upcoming area. So that's what we did. We're a little bit like further away from the main hustle and bustle of the Strip in downtown area. But this area is very up and coming because everything is expanding towards this way. We've got a new stadium with the Raiders that's pretty close, only like
10 minutes away.
10-15 minutes away. So we chose to go the opposite way to get an upcoming area that also has more land, bigger backyards, because you're going to get that when you move further away too. So that's just something for you to consider. Like, are you, especially as a young person, are you a person that's still trying to like party it up and be in the middle of the scene, or are you already trying to,
Are you willing to travel to get to where you need to go?
So why you shouldn't buy? The biggest thing is, like, do you have no history or credit? Like we talked about earlier, they're going to check your history for like the past 2 to 3 years. They're going to run your credit. And if you don't have that stuff in line, or it's not exactly appealing, it could either limit you. It might not necessarily stop you from being able to buy a house, but it might limit how much you can afford, because they're not going to take some of your income or count some of it, so that could just affect it.
And if they are limiting, if you can go through with it and they're limiting how much you can get, say you wanted $300,000 but they only give you $200,000, that really has to put it in perspective of what's your expectation versus what your budget is. And if your expectations and your budget doesn't meet or isn't even close, and you can't work with either of them, then you may want to consider postponing it until you're a little more in line with what you want.
Yeah, give it an extra year of work experience, of income or something like that, and then try again so that you can get a home that you actually like instead of just buying one.
Exactly. And we want to reiterate that we don't make great money. We're not like, super rich or anything.
So basically, for example, just to give you some actual numbers, our combined income is around 70,000, maybe a little bit more, maybe more like 75. But I would say it cuts off at around 80,000. So under 80,000, and the house that we purchased is
total about
364.
I was gonna say 370. It's close.
Yeah, I think it was 364, like 99 or something like that. So another big thing is travel. Do you travel a lot? I know we're young. We like to travel a lot. I know. I'm with you on that one. So if that is like the biggest priority for you right now, that's totally fine. Don't buy a house right now. Get your travel in. That doesn't mean that you can't buy a house and still travel, obviously. But if that one needs to be your priority right now.
You're not going to be doing any 6-month adventures when you have a mortgage to pay. You don't want to be locked down to that.
Yeah. And I guess that just goes into responsibility, you know. You can't break your mortgage the way that you can break rent, you know, a rental agreement. You're in the mortgage unless you can manage to sell the house or something like that. So you just have to be aware of that and be responsible with how you're spending. That's the biggest thing. I think that the biggest thing for young people is that you can probably afford to do the things that you want to do. It's just how are we budgeting for those things, you know?
And it does come with some sacrifices too. When you have a mortgage, you have to meet every month. There's no way around it. You can't go stay with a friend. It's that debt is tied to your name. You really have to prioritize. You know, if you do like to travel, maybe you can't take as many trips per year as you want to. It's a really big chunk of change to come out of your pocket every month.
Yeah, maybe you can't shop as much as you would like to. Maybe, you know, there's just quite a few things that you just have to prioritize and budget for. So that's the biggest thing. Like, it's not that you probably can't afford it with how much you make. It's just, can you manage to budget yourself properly? And you have to remember that because, you know, you're paying everything yourself. You know, there's no bundles, there's no landlord paying your internet and your sewer and
there's no maintenance to come out and fix your problems either. So you either need to learn to do it yourself or have the money to pay someone to come fix it. Which goes into why buying a new construction home, it might be a good idea too, is you don't need to worry about a lot of those maintenance issues you might have with an older home.
Yeah, your roof shouldn't be falling apart. You shouldn't have termites in your walls and stuff like that. So that's a good benefit. So I guess in summary, does age prohibit you from buying a house when you're in your early 20s?
Not at all.
Not at all. They don't care about your age. They just care about your money.
Exactly. If you have the money, they really don't care. And you might get a few questions, people asking you about gift money. But in reality, as long as you have the money to pay for it, no one cares about your age. You could be 20, you could be 70. You know, they're just in it to make their commission, essentially.
Which, again, let's beg the question. If I can buy a house, why can't I rent a car without a fee? All right, you guys. So thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it informative and that it can help shed some light on this process for you. And we really just want to encourage young people, like, get out there and go for it. Yes, like, you will probably run into some troubles. We ran into some troubles. But like we said before, at least you're trying when you're young. So you have the opportunity to learn and grow from your experiences. And it might work out for you like it is for us. But just give it a shot and put yourself out there. And don't think that you have to be 40 before you can try to buy your house.
That first step is looking online, seeing, you know, what you could afford and thinking about your situation. And, you know, maybe you can't, but maybe you could. And, you know, you might not have ever known if you didn't try.
All right, so go ahead and thumbs up this video if you enjoyed. Talk to us down in the comments if you have any questions or want us to make another video diving in more depth to some of these different things. And do not forget to subscribe if you have not done so already. And if you would like to receive notifications for whenever we post a video, do not forget to hit that bell icon.